Well, we always like to talk about some local Tri-Cities issues and kind of discuss on the show what's going on in the community, what people are seeing and talking about. And John, do you want to know what a really quick way to get Reddit fired up around here is?
To talk about affordability.
Yeah, to talk about affordability. So Washington Roundtable, there was an article and it was shared in the Tri-City Herald earlier this week. And it's one of those things where you come across some of these articles, and I always try on the show to balance like the positivity with the negative articles too, to give kind of a true insight to what's happening. My competitors think I'm crazy and should only say positive things. They call me, they comment on my posts and tell me this. But
yes,
this was a real story that came out that a lot of people are talking about. And it said that you're not imagining it. The headline was, "You're not imagining it. Tri-Cities becoming disproportionately expensive compared to similar sized cities in other metro areas in Washington state." So it actually said in the metro areas. Now there's only 4 or 5 other metro areas in Eastern Washington, right?
Yeah.
But it is now the most expensive. And every single metro area in the state of Washington was in the top 25% of the 386 areas that are measured in the
I find
US.
it hard to believe we're ahead of Seattle, Tacoma.
Okay, so we're not. It's just Eastern Washington.
Okay, I was going to say those people are...
In fact, John, you bring up a good point. I love this because like sometimes I feel like you can like secretly see me at the office writing the show because you just brought up a great point. I was going to get to it a little bit later in the show, but that's a great segue that you bring up is I went back and when I saw this article, I said, okay, one of the things I like to add, my own take to and discuss is if we look back over the last 20 years, if we're saying Tri-Cities is now one of the most, is the most expensive on the east side of the state, and then Washington is now top, Washington's, I think, the 5th. I got to get to my page. Washington is the 5th most expensive state now to live in. Okay, yeah. So that sucks for us that are here living there. But one of the things you brought up is I said, okay, what in the last 20 years, when was an area ever deemed more affordable? Okay, because a lot of times people are like, well, prices are still going up. But if there was, say, businesses or industries added, and then you get high-paying jobs, but housing lags, then maybe that's going to be considered more affordable. So I did some research and looked at, and so I want to, as we go into this discussion about Tri-Cities specifically, look and see. So I said, okay, what are the areas over the last 20 years that have actually become more affordable? Because that's the question everybody's asking. If you look at the threads and you read the comments, are like, well, I want it to become more affordable here. Okay. I don't know if you're going to get any of these, John, but I did a top 4 areas in the United States that became more affordable. And I want to see if you can get one of these 4. I don't know if I could have before I did the research.
Twin Falls, Idaho.
Okay. It is not. So I'm going to give you number 1.
Okay.
Cleveland, Ohio has actually become more affordable.
Because all the Browns fans left.
So it has had very stabilized pricing. But then they totally revitalized the downtown. So you got new businesses, new industries coming in. And prices didn't really increase dramatically. So that was an area that actually became more affordable. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they have a very diversified economy, and they haven't seen massive house price growth either. And so it became more accessible for first-time home buyers. So the economy's doing better, more jobs are coming there. Buffalo, New York was on the list.
Oh.
And then complete opposite area, Birmingham, Alabama. Their housing market has had low prices. They've been able to keep their property taxes there low. So those 4 markets actually became more affordable, largely due to economic drivers in job growth industries. And then also not having some sort of event that caused massive, massive migration, right? Like, so you get more people coming in for better jobs. They're a little bit higher paying jobs, but it's like the secret's not out yet.
Yeah.
Right. So those areas became more affordable. Okay. Now, if we look back the last 20 years, I said, okay, what's the exact opposite of this? What areas became the least affordable in the United States over the last 20 years? And I will give you a hint. You've already led us there, John.
Seattle, Tacoma.
Seattle, Washington, booming tech sector, right? Like just explodes with Microsoft, Google, Amazon, booming tech sector. And then tons of new residents because of that. Huge, lot of migration into that city because of tech. Prices go astronomically through it. Not a lot of areas to like grow and develop. Like you got water on one side, mountains on the other.
Yep.
Like you can only go so far. Seattle, Washington. Do you got another guess in the 20 years?
San Francisco.
Number one, San Francisco. You nailed it. You're crushing this with zero prep, which I absolutely love. Once again, high demand, tech-driven growth, prices go crazy. Now, this is over 20 years, right? There's an argument in the last 3 to 4 years that some of that has subsided there in the price growth. But they're on the list. Are you going to give it another shot? You're 2 for 2.
I'm just going to roll the dice.
Detroit? Nope. It did have a resurgence, but Detroit, not on the list. I'm going to give you another guess. This is good. This is fun.
Vegas.
Nope, not Vegas, but not far away from there, Los Angeles. Los Angeles, huge price growth. Rounding out the list, New York. New York just went berserk. Like, same type of thing. There's nowhere to go, right? Like, so tons of international exposure, lots of international buyers, big business. New York went crazy. And then rounding out the list, number 5, Miami, Florida. And very popular with the international market. You also have a lot of wealth leaving now certain states going to Florida. And so they've been a big benefactor of that. So one of the reasons I point that out is because one of the discussions on affordability, especially here in the Tri-Cities, you look at that list of 386, and we actually rank as the 85th most expensive. So we're not in the middle anymore. Like, we're not in the lower end. We're moving up with that. In the last 5 years, you said Seattle, West Side, Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma pricing crazy.
Yeah.
And then you have this little thing called a pandemic, which says, hey, we're not enjoying living in Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue. And it looks like they're just partying on the east side of the state, and that would be a fun place to live.
Yep.
And now my work says I can work remotely, and I just have to show up once or twice a month in the office. Well, I can get rid of my overpriced house in this market, which to me seems overpriced. For $1 million, I'm living in a glass building and no yard. And man, if I take that $1 million and I look across the mountain range, holy smokes, there's a 4,000 square foot house with a beautiful view and a half-acre yard, and I can put I can pick that up for $750 and put $250,000 in the bank. So then a lot of those buyers just start coming to the east side.
Yeah.
But the jobs are not here. So one of the things I talked about in what makes a market affordable is I said the housing prices don't go up dramatically, but the job growth and the economics do. So if all of a sudden you have a bunch of outside influences, people coming from markets that don't have jobs here, and are scooping up those houses, that's going to naturally inflate the cost of living over there. And so I think one of the things that is just geography unfortunate for us is that we're very close to one of those most expensive markets in the entire United States.
Yeah.
So a little bit of that spillover effect is here for sure. The other thing that happens is, there are some taxation issues that go along with that. There's also some regulatory building issues. We've had the HBA. In fact, it's time to get the HBA president back on the show.
Yeah.
Because I know what's going to happen. We're going to have him on the show, and he's going to talk about the permitting issue, the permitting cost, and what it takes to get a house even what I call out of the ground or shovel ready.
Yeah.
So getting to shovel ready with the cost of permits, infrastructure, and where that's at, it's expensive. And like a lot of the comments online that I was reading as I was prepping for the show is like, it's a desert. We should have a ton of available lots. But then the writer of the article goes in and says they can't find a lot in Tri-Cities under 110,000, like a lot. Now,
well, and that's because of the Growth Management Act too.
Part of that is now. Also, I don't think the writer of the article was a realtor because I think I can actually find, there are a couple lots that call me under 110. So I fact check. I question that one a little bit because I do know where a few are. We can find you a lot for that price. But in general, he would have expected to go on Zillow or something and see a ton of them.
Yeah.
And there aren't many. So the development cost is prohibitive for some of that. And it's not just that we have desert and all this land available. We got to get services out there.
Yes.
You know, we got to get water out there, electric,
roads, sewer.
And so there's a sunk cost to that. And that is definitely part of it. Another thing I want to debunk in the article that it talked about is it said the average person is spending $13,500 on housing. And so somebody smartly posted like, where are they staying? Because I can't find a 1-bedroom apartment for, $1,100 anywhere. Yeah. You got to kind of read between the lines on that. In the article a little bit, he was saying that a lot of those were dual income households. So that $13,500 was actually $26,000 on housing for those households. But if you're single, the article did point out it takes roughly $50,000 to survive with housing, food, et cetera, in the market. And so, and other costs have been going up as well, right? Like we can't just pin this all on real estate.
Yeah.
Healthcare costs have been up 69% in the last 5 years.
Energy costs.
Luckily, thank God, John, energy costs is the only category that we rank well in because
I guess I should specify fuel.
Correct. Fuel, exactly. Because I did drive by one of the dams. It's still there. I checked. And so our hydroelectric power costs are very low. I mean, there's
electricity and all that's not bad, but gas price at the pump.
Yep.
And that gets passed on because of deliveries, maintenance, plumber, everybody.
Absolutely.
So the price of fuel.
The other thing the article, I think, didn't take into effect is people that own their homes prior to the massive increases in pricing.
Yes.
So a lot of people, and then the last thing to point out, because I'll just run out of time. This could have been a 4-hour show, but is interest rates. It's a double whammy for affordability in the housing sector, because people that have locked in interest rates at 3% and below, they're not selling those houses.
No,
they're remodeling them. They're staying put, or those are becoming rentals. When they leave, I get a lot of calls. There's a reason why I have a property management company. I get a lot of calls for people that said, I'm not selling that house because I've got a 3% interest rate on it. It cash flows. It's a good return on my investment. And so I'm keeping it. So there are some factors working against affordability right now. It comes down to you still have to look for what works for you.
Yes.
What payment, how much of your budget can we associate with housing, and direct that way. There are still some great deals in the market. You just have to work at finding those. I've got a team of great buyer agents that specialize in this. If you have any questions about how to get a deal in some of those unaffordable price points, go to kenmoreteam.com, shoot us a message. We'll sit down, talk about what you're trying to accomplish, and then show you a product that meets your needs. Everyone's slightly different, and some people a townhouse is going to work. Some people a large lot is going to work, and some people it's going to be a condo. So we just have to look at your needs, what fits your budget, and what you're after. We're doing it every day, so regardless of what the news says, we're helping a lot of people get into some great houses.